Welcome to Brain Lady Speaks with Julie Anderson. Julie Brain Lady Anderson is considered to be one of the nation's top experts on the brain-personality connection. She has been inspiring her audiences to fire up their brains and ignite positive changes in their relationships. And now she is here to bring that knowledge to you. The information she shares will help those who hear it to accelerate their success in life and business through the discovery of their natural gifts and maximizing their brain power. When you learn to tap into the potential of your natural gifts and the power of the brain-mind connection, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. Today and every Wednesday on Brain Lady Speaks, you'll explore the latest findings to see how they have practical application in your life. And now, get ready to join Julie Anderson on the Brain Lady Speaks radio show. Take it away, Julie.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tying in and taking a watch of this episode of Brain Lady Speaks podcast/video cast. I am Julie Anderson, also known as Brain Lady Julie, and I am honored that you are taking this time to spend with Andrea and I this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whatever it is, but taking this time to spend with us. Thank you for being here. And I am really looking forward to this interview because I am looking forward to getting some brain wisdom dropped on us from Andrea. So welcome, Andrea, to the Brain Lady Speaks podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just thrilled to be able to talk about this topic. I think you have a fascinating show, and I'm excited to see where we go with it today.
Oh, thank you. I'm such a brain geek. I just love talking brain about anything. But it's very cool to be able to draw this the connections that brain science helps us to have. But before we dive into the conversation, let me go ahead and read your professional bio so people get a little bit of your background. Andrea Nicholson helps driven, successful, health-minded people who are trying to live a healthy life, but aren't getting the results they're looking for, to find a personalized health and healing solutions so they can live an adventure-filled life. Using over a decade of experience in the health industry, training as a nutrition therapist master and a restorative wellness practitioner, she creates personalized packages to give clients confidence in choosing the right foods for their body, uses functional testing and other cutting-edge technologies to uncover underlying imbalances, and provides them with the tools they need to navigate their unique needs so they can always get the results they want. So once again, thank you very much for honoring us with your time and being here on the Brain Lady Speak show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So I always like starting out by asking I like to know we hear the professional background in the bio, right? But I love kind of hearing this story of where you came from, what led you into this field. Were there challenges, or was it just an interest or a passion of yours? What led you to build this business that you've built?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think a lot of practitioners will tell you that it was, their own health journey that got them started. And that was certainly true for me. I've always been interested in health. I didn't always live the life of a healthy person, but I was always interested. It was always something that really drew me in, that was really fascinating to me. I was adopted as an infant, and my birth family all died very young of heart disease. So thankfully I was adopted, or I would have been orphaned at 15.
Wow.
When the women all died younger than 50 and the men died younger than 70. So that was kind of the future that I was headed towards if I didn't figure things out. And, of course, as a young person, I didn't always follow the advice that I knew I should have been following. And I, ate all the typical junk foods and ate a lot of fast food and did all of those things. And when I hit my mid-20s, I got a sort of scary bit of information from a cardiologist. My employer at the time had brought in a whole system of testing for all of the employees because heart disease was, obviously it's the number one killer. And so they brought in, the carotid scans and EKGs and like all these things. And they found that at 25, I already had plaques forming, and my arterial age was 11 years older than I was at the time. So clearly I was headed down that same path of dying young of heart disease. And that was kind of my wake up call, is in my mid-20s, if I follow the same path, I was already halfway through my life. So that was kind of a big wake up call. In my 20s, though, it was easy. You could just work out more and pay a little better attention to what you're eating. But eventually that quit working. And I tried all kinds of things. I followed all the standard advice. I, did the the government food plate system and all the things. I ultimately went vegetarian. That didn't work for me either. I ended up wiping out my gut health, ended
Mm.
up chronically sore, had migraines. I mean, you just name it. My health was just continually declining and I couldn't figure it out because I was eating nothing but plants. Like, what could be healthier?
Right.
What I didn't know is what ultimately helped me heal was that I needed a lot of gut repair. And I was actually lacking in a lot of nutrients following that diet. And so along the journey, I, have fixed my own health and I see it happening in so many other people that now I want to help others.
That's awesome. And I think this is a really good time to highlight the what you'd said about heart disease. It is, if and correct me if I'm wrong, but not only is it the number one killer, it it's worse for women than it is for men.
It is.
Like,
And I think a big chunk of that is because, and a lot of times in women, the symptoms are not present.
right.
And so there's really no like warning sign of, a pending heart attack or whatever. And so if you're not doing the right kind of testing or doing some of the other things to know that you have a problem, you
Yeah.
might not know. And the first sign of it could be that heart attack that kills you.
Right. That's scary. That's scary.
It is.
Well, I love pulling this into, so message to everyone, seek out, get it checked. Right? Get it checked. All you ladies out there listening, especially. But we're gonna tie this over then into the brain, because you made that acknowledgement, or that in your life you found that it messed up your gut. And there are so many. The gut is so responsible for brain health, for neurotransmitter production. Serotonin, 95% of the serotonin that is developed in the body is developed in the gut. So if you're and serotonin's the be happy neurochemical,
Yeah.
right? So if your gut's messed up, so when you talk about that, when you talk about brain health, it requires this holistic health. Is that included, or help? Is that included in the gut health? Is that one of the reasons why you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Gut health is literally the foundation to all chronic disease. Without adequate digestion, it doesn't matter how clean your diet is, you're not absorbing the nutrients that you're eating. They're just leaving your body. You're also not effectively eliminating toxins, so they can just recirculate in the body. And those toxins often end up in the brain or affecting the overall nervous system, causing stress in the body, causing further damage in the body, all the things. And then obviously, we need the good microbes as well, not only to help our immune system to fight off those other infections, but it's those gut microbes that are helping to produce serotonin and dopamine and even vitamins. They're literally the ones making the vitamins in your gut. And so without having an adequate gut, you're not going to have any optimal health in any category, but especially in the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that holistic, it's looking at the body as a whole then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you give a few tips on how, like, you went through, so it could be a lot of people listening saying, well, I was in her position. I was vegetarian. I was eating what I thought was healthy because it was a green diet or it was a raw diet. And you have to keep in mind the body needs more than just that. Like, what what are some of the tips that you can give to the listeners on improvements or things that they can change in their lifestyle, in their eating habits, and the types of things they eat or they shouldn't be eating, that is going to help to support the brain health?
Yeah, I'll give it just a couple, although there's lots of things I
Mm.
could say in this. But, number one, I mentioned toxins already as that relates to gut health. And I think that's a huge one because we live in an incredibly toxic time between air pollution, are the contaminants in our water, the pesticides and stuff in our food, plus the hundreds or thousands of chemicals that we are surround ourselves with every day, with fragrances, with personal care products, with air fresheners, you name it, we are surrounded by toxins. And that's a huge first step that we can take. We're never going to eliminate all of them, but we can take steps to reduce where we can by, eating organic as much as possible, by changing out personal care products, changing out home care products or cleaning products, changing the water source, what we're actually drinking for our water. If we're drinking tap water, you're getting chemicals and bacteria and toxins. If you're drinking bottled water out of, plastic bottles that you're buying at the grocery store, you're also getting a lot of toxins from the plastics. So we really have to be mindful of the products that we're using, the food that we're buying, all of the things, so that we can reduce that toxin load. So that would be my first tip, is just do what you can to reduce the amount of toxins you're being exposed to. The second
That's
one
great.
is, I would say, make sure you're eating adequate healthy fats. That was one of the major things that was wrong with my vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
I really wasn't getting all that much healthy fat. Wasn't getting much fat at all.
Yep.
And the problem with not getting enough healthy fats is, first of all, your brain is made up of a lot of fat, including cholesterol, which kind of goes along with fats. But you also need fat for hormone building, for enzymes, for energy production. You need fat for a lot of different things, and you can't absorb fat-soluble vitamins without fat.
Without fat.
And so in
It's in
order
the
to
name.
absorb A, D, E, and K specifically, you have to have fat in your diet. And preferably at the same time, you're taking in those vitamins so that you can actually absorb them. So that would be my second one, is really focus on healthy sources of fat and avoid the vegetable oils, avoid the canola, cottonseed, corn, soybean, safflower, sunflower, rice bran, grapeseed, all of those refined seed oils that aren't even really vegetables, but that's what they're called. Avoid those and stick to olives and olive oil, avocados and avocado products, coconut products, and all of the natural animal fats that are great, that nature provides, rather than some factory processing some alleged vegetable that's not a vegetable, that doesn't really contain that much oil. So
Yeah.
switch out your fats to be healthy sources of fat. And then lastly, I'll say, make sure you're exercising every day. This doesn't have to be a hardcore gym session, but move your body every day. That actually stimulates cleaning out the brain from toxins. It produces kind of brain fertilizers that, grow new neurons and keep the brain young and vital. It's just amazing. Plus, you're burning off extra blood sugar, and that blood sugar is also toxic to the brain. So there's lots of benefits for why you need exercise. So that would be my third tip.
I love those. And I mean, all of them. Like, if you look, if I could show, and maybe one of these days I'll do one in live where I can pull in the brain scans of individuals who have toxic brains. Like, you look at a healthy brain compared to a toxic brain, it's frightening. It looks like Swiss cheese by comparison. Like, it
It is.
literally, there are areas that just aren't inactive. They just are not functioning. And then exercise, I harp on that all the time. Do your cardio every day for your brain. I mean, the weightlifting is great for your muscles and all of that, and your bone structure and all of that. But that getting in that cardio, the detoxification that comes with that, the list of studies that have been done on the benefits of cardiovascular work for your brain health it's too long to list. Yeah,
Well, that's what
it's
stimulates your lymphatic system to move. Your
yes,
your lymphatic system is your detox process, and it
yes.
doesn't have any, like, muscles or contractibility all by itself. It needs your muscles to do that.
Mhm.
You're just sitting like a lump, your lymphatic system isn't moving.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting what you said about the oils as well. And I think that's something that, again, a lot of people, they're they're misunderstandings, they're misnomers. There's things that came out during different times in history over the last 50 years where this is bad and that is bad and these fats are bad. And then they brought out, don't even get me started on partially hydrogenated oil. Don't even get me there. I would rather see you put a big fat slab of butter
Yep,
on a
yep,
piece of bread than use margarine. I can't even, that's a whole long show in itself, right?
yep.
Because those natural fats, they're actually much more digestible and recognizable by the body's digestive system, where the altered things are things that are not. So beautiful tips. I 100% agree with you there. Now, what about foods in general? So you talked about being a vegetarian, and it's oftentimes people think kind of the way you thought in your 20s, where it's like, oh, well, if I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to be healthy because I'm eating all of this healthy food. What are some food, specific foods, that you would recommend that are great for overall health, which in turn would be good for brain health.
Yeah, I think one of the main lessons I got from all the things that went wrong when I was doing the vegetarian diet is one, not everyone that's doing a vegetarian diet is doing it in a healthy way. Let's be honest. Doritos and Oreos are also vegetarian diet. Those are not exactly health foods. So you
Right.
can do it that way. I was not. I was actually eating a whole food, whole vegetable, fresh food diet. And yet I was lacking in many, many amino acids. I wasn't getting anywhere near enough quality proteins. Plant proteins just aren't as well absorbed, and they don't have the full spectrum of all of the necessary amino acids. There are
Mm.
certain amino acids that we have to consume. We can't make them in our bodies. We can't convert
Right.
them from anything else. We have to consume them. And plant sources generally are lower in those. So you have to eat a much larger quantity of the food to even get those amino acids. And while you're at it, you're also getting a much larger carbohydrate dose, which is raising your blood sugars and causing potentially insulin resistance if you're not,
Mhm.
really paying attention. So I would say really you need to lean into quality proteins. Make sure that's your number one priority. Secondly would be the healthy fats that we've already talked about. And then thirdly, I would say, really avoid refined carbohydrates. The refined grains really aren't serving you. I realize that's a huge portion of the American diet these days, but they're really not serving you. Out of all of the different kinds of foods that you can eat that are natural sources of foods, grains have the least kind of benefit of all the different categories. So I would say really eliminate the refined grains and stick to, whole vegetables, whole fruits, those kinds of things for your carbohydrates. Um, and then I would also say, going back to the fats, really avoid those vegetable oils. That one really is a big one. It's inflammatory. They're not providing you any nutrients. They don't have the full spectrum of vitamins and minerals and things that natural sources of fats do. And so they really are problematic. And when you are prioritizing the healthy fats, you also want to make sure that you're getting the essential fatty acids, so the omega
Yes.
3s. Most of us naturally get a lot of the omega 6s, so we don't really need to try to get those. We get them naturally in a lot of different foods, but the omega 3s you really do need to prioritize getting from good sources. And again, the best sources are like wild caught fish.
Yeah.
The animal products are better. You can get some from things like flaxseed, but we have to be able to convert it to a different form inside the body. And most of us aren't very good at converting from the plant source to the useful form. So again, the animal sources tend to be better for those essential fatty acids.
Yeah, and it's so and that is like one of the best things for the brain specifically is those EFAs, and it's if you're not getting them, foggy thought process, just not being able to concentrate well, just simply adding that one thing in your diet adequately is something that oftentimes I see with clients. They'll just, it definitely will add clarity to their brain and just change the way they're thinking, make it their thinking clearer and better. I love that when there's kind of gives a new twist for people to understand that you are what you eat. Like if you're not eating healthy, then every part of your body's not healthy, and that includes your brain. And I don't know about you,
Absolutely.
but I like having a healthy brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I like retaining this information center.
I know, and I want it to stay young. I don't
Yes,
want,
absolutely.
I want it to stay sharp. And there's eating the things that we eat and the physical exercise, things like that is so very important. Now, something that I talk a lot about, if you follow me on social media, or even this morning, once a month, I do a brainstorm with a brain lady, a chat with a brain lady, kind of this open forum for an hour where people can just kind of ask me questions. And then I always give it a theme. And this morning's theme was stress, because we're leading into a time of year where not only are we all experiencing post-pandemic stress and the stresses in what's going on a global scene, but we also, this time of year typically raises the stress level for a lot of people for multiple different reasons. And stress is so damaging to the brain, especially when it's chronic, right? When it's chronic. So give me what's your take? What's your what it looks like, what it does to the brain, what it does to and then in turn your physical health as a result, and how can people be better what are some of your good ideas on how people can be better about managing that stress? Because it's going to be there. We can't always just make the stress go away, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stress, much like toxins, we're never going to fully escape them. They're everywhere. It's constantly bombarding us, and it seems to just increase by the day, especially as we pile on responsibilities and we pile on, new challenges in life and then all the world dramas and all the things. It really is a serious plague on all of us, and it is a big deal on overall health, but specifically on brain health
mhm.
because it's inflammatory. It's
Yeah.
causing the release of some chemicals. Let me back up. It's inflammatory in a chronic state, like you mentioned. It actually can have some benefits in really small doses in the short term. It can be a hormetic stressor, which means in the short term, it can actually make you a little stronger, a little more
Mhm.
resilient, a little better focus when you're actively running from the tiger. It gives you that ability to get away from the tiger that much better. But that's over the short term. Over the long term, it becomes inflammatory. All of those stress chemicals can pile up in the body. The body can become sort of resistant to some of them. So then they get higher and higher and higher to do the
Mhm.
same work that they used to do at a lower level. Stress also releases blood sugar.
Yeah.
And if you think about that from a biological standpoint, the body doesn't know that your stress is that there's a tiger chasing you or that
Right.
you're worried about an upcoming bill.
Right.
It doesn't
It does
know
not
the
know the
difference.
difference between real or perceived stress.
It
Yes.
doesn't. And so your body releases blood sugar so that you have the energy to either flee or fight. But most
Yeah.
of us aren't actually running from our stressors today. Most of
Yeah.
us are sitting and stewing in them. So now
Mhm.
we've got this higher blood sugar that we don't really need, but that
Yeah.
releases insulin. Insulin actually blocks your ability to use stored fuels because you just released them from storage or you just consumed carbs. So that actually puts you in a fat storage mode.
Yeah.
It's actually stealing energy from the brain because you can't use that glucose for your brain to work. It's too busy being converted to fat.
Mhm.
And so it just starts this whole cascade of negative health consequences. And those stress chemicals also affect your neurotransmitters. You end up with more of some and less of the others. And, that just ends up making you not as happy, not
Yeah.
as joyous, not as calm. You can end up with anxiety and depression and all of these more serious conditions that just seem to get worse and worse and worse the more you're under stress.
Yeah.
So, as far as what we can do about it, obviously, as much as you can get things off of your plate, get them off of your plate. As much as you can not tune in to the dramas of the world that you can't fix anyway, tune it
Unplug.
out, turn it off.
Yep.
Don't follow it. Unfollow all of the things that just bring you drama that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
Just stop listening to it. Stop paying attention to it. Stop giving it any energy. And then I would also say, exercise is a great way to kind of burn off excess stress and it helps reduce those cortisol levels. That's another one that is a good hormetic stressor. In the moment, exercise is stressful, especially if it's intense, but it makes you stronger in the long run. So that's another one that can help reduce those chronic stress levels. I would say prioritize your sleep. Have a really good sleep routine. Make sure your room is really dark and cool and comfortable and quiet, and you're only really sleeping in there and maybe one other activity. But you're not working. You're not watching TV. You're not doing all of these other dramatic, stressful activities. And then, in addition to sleep, I would also make sure that the rest of your downtime is really restful. If you're watching suspenseful movies and crime dramas and all of these, you know, shows that amp you up, that's not really restful. It's not helping you downregulate. It's actually causing more stress because what you're watching on the TV is a perceived stress in your body. So we just have to be mindful of all of these things that we're doing in our lives and try to reduce those stress exposures as much as possible.
Yeah, I think those are some really good points, and I often tell people, like I was just telling people this morning in the chat with the brain lady, that you have to kind of take stock, do some mindful meditation, even if it's just a couple minutes each day. where is my stress level? Check with your body, my feeling stress in different parts of my body. People do not realize they wander around 50% of their life like this, right? They're like tense. And when you're doing that, you're pushing in and you're closing off your oxygen flow to the brain because you're not being able to breathe deep because you're just tense. So taking that time, especially if you can do it twice a day, in the morning to set your brain in the right direction, in the evening to be able to relax and decompress and just kind of do a body check. Just how am I feeling? Are there areas where I'm carrying tension that I need to release? Am I thirsty? Do I need to hydrate? Just doing that a lot of times helps. And yeah, I like the unplug. I think that's so important. We for whatever reason, as human beings, we kind of thrive on drama sometimes, but we have to train our brain that that's not good for it. And then, I'm gonna go read a good book, or I'm gonna go I love watching funny YouTube things that make you laugh and raise the endorphins and things like
Yeah,
that. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Prioritize joy.
I
Do
love
things
it.
that bring you joy. Do things
Yeah,
that bring you happiness. Absolutely.
those are excellent points. So if there was, before we close up, give our listeners, if there was one thing, just like we've talked about a lot of things, and a lot of these, I often tell people it's hard to make a ton of changes overnight. That in itself can cause you an amount of stress. So, taking it one, prioritize the things that you're going to change and then start making those changes and let them build on each other. But what is, if you were going to give the listeners one, or the watchers, one good piece of advice or one good message that they could take away right now that would help them with really their whole body health? Because if you're the healthier your body is, the healthier your brain's going to be, and vice versa. So what would that message be?
I would say really be your own advocate. Keep
Mm.
striving, regardless of what your health goal is or what your current health challenges are. Keep striving. You might have to work with multiple practitioners. You might have to, fire a few along the way. You might have to read a bunch of books or listen to a bunch of podcasts or watch a bunch of YouTube videos and reach out and ask for referrals and resources and recommendations. Just keep fighting. Don't take any one person advice for everything. If it doesn't sound right, if it doesn't sit right with you, if it's not working for you, there's probably a reason for that. Now, it could be that you're not applying it correctly or you're missing a small little nuance. That's
Mhm.
entirely possible. So I'm not just saying discount everything everyone says just because you don't like it, but be your own advocate. Be willing to ask the hard questions. Be willing to ask more questions. Ask for more resources and just keep fighting until you feel your best.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about how people can or stay in touch with you and maybe work with you if they're interested in it. I noticed when I was looking at your website, you have a podcast. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
I do. I just started it a couple months ago. It's called the Holistic Health Bites podcast. And it is bite sized episodes that cover various topics of gut health or metabolic health or just, tips and resources for living your best life. So they're typically under 15 minutes. They're just little bite sized episodes. And then I also have occasional bonus episodes where I'm doing interviews with other experts, much like you. So it's been a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to continuing to put content out that way.
I love it. I love it. So how, if someone's listening and they're like, I want to talk, because you do more than, like, we focused on brain because this is the Brain Lady Speaks. But you work on with your clients with metabolism, with inflammation, with all different types of, obviously, digestive issues. Uh, what Tell us a little bit about how someone can work more with you or find out more about what you do.
Yeah, the hub of all of my stuff is on my website, so you can see that there at the bottom of the screen. That is where the podcast lives. That's where you can book a complimentary consultation with me if you just want to learn more. If you just want to chat about what's going on with you and see, help see if I can help you figure out what your next best steps are. Um, all of my stuff is there, and I would be happy to address questions or point you to resources, whatever I can do to further your health education.
I love that. So you could do with that 45-minute complimentary consultation and find out more about that on the healthylifewithandrea.com. You also have some social media links. You are Healthy Life with Andrea on, I think it's Instagram and Facebook, so people can stay in contact with you there. Great ways to stay. So if you're a listener, found this this interview interesting, you want to know more with Andrea, shoot her an email, follow her on Instagram or Facebook, reach out and check out her website. There's great resources there as well. And share this information, as I am clearly passionate about the brain. And if you share the podcast, share it, give us a thumbs up, give us a positive comment so that we can share this message with more and more people, because obviously there's that whole algorithm thing that we have to think about, right? Which stresses me out, so I don't deal with it. I just make the comment.
Right.
All right. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for being on The Brain Lady Speaks today. We really appreciated your
Thank you so
time,
much.
and I very much enjoyed the conversation. Very synergistic in our thinking and similar in the things. My journey into the brain started some 27 plus years ago when I was studying natural health, because it was fascinating to me as well. So lots of things in common. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on.
Oh, thank you so much. I've had a blast being here, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the listeners, thank you for being with us. I'm again very thankful for your time and for your paying it or listening into the show today or watching it as the video cast on YouTube. We truly appreciate that. If you have a great topic that you want to see on The Brain Lady Speaks, or you want to perhaps investigate being on the show, seeing if you'd be a good fit for the show, then shoot us an email at info@yourbestmindllc.com. And of course, you can find this, or you can reach out to our liaison, Kelli, Kelli, at brainladyspeaker.com. That's speaker, not speaks. It's got the ER on there. You can also find this program on any of your podcast channels. And please do give us some social media love, some thumbs up. And you can follow me, of course, on I think I'm Brain Lady Julie on pretty much everything except for Twitter. Twitter, I'm just Brain Lady, but everything else is Brain Lady Julie. So you can follow me on all of those different platforms. And thank you again, Andrea. Thank you, listeners, for being here with us. And I would like for everyone to do that body check. Just roll your shoulders, take a nice deep breath, go out there, have some fun, and simply enjoy every moment.